What do we do about language? I gotta make sure.
You're live. Tagliavia live at 5.
It's the capital beat. You probably should try to minimize the language.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I asked. Okay.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So this is our inaugural show of the Capital Beat, which is part of Barre Beat, but is like not part of Barre Beat. It's like taken over.
It's a variation.
Pieces. It's a variation. And to start our inaugural process, or our inaugural show, we have in the studio with us Miss Gina Galfetti and Mr. Mike Tagliavia, or Michael Tagliavia. Which one do you prefer?
Either works.
Either works? Well, good evening. Good evening, David.
That's Representative Gina Galfetti.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. Representative Gina Galfetti and Representative Mike Tagliavia.
There you go, Mike.
Oh man, we're going to be
Rules of decorum in the house.
Tonight,
Rules of decorum in the house.
Yes, no decorum. Let's talk about decorum. Ay. I mean, we could dive right into the decorum conversation. Do you want to, or probably not?
That's a hard pass.
That's a hard pass?
That's
okay.
a hard pass. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's fine. That's fine.
Crocs!
I don't know. What? What are you talking about? I don't know anybody that would wear Crocs in the State House. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's not talk about decorum.
Okay.
So we figured what we would do is we get a couple people together every once in a while and just give a little update on what's going on in the legislature. Now that I'm there, like on a full-time basis, I can get information out to people, and this is one way that we're going to do it. And like I said, starting off with Gina and Mike, which is really awesome. Let's talk about the big bill. You want to talk about the big bill, the Budget Adjustment Act?
Well, the
Sure.
big bill is actually the budget, Mike. The BAA, or Budget Adjustment Act, is a follow-up to, it's basically housekeeping from the last fiscal year coming up to the July 1st fiscal rollover. And the purpose of the bill is to just shift money around from different things that maybe one program didn't use up as much money as it could have, and something else needs to get supplemented. And it's just kind of a balancing act. It's really just a lot of housekeeping. And it's not typically a bill that's supposed to have any policy in it, let alone contentious policy. And this...
It had some policy.
This Budget Adjustment Act here of 2025 definitely had some policy in it, and had some contentious and in-depth policy that was a real shift from what some of the compromises were, specifically on the General Housing Assistance Program. And the compromise last year is that they would put an 80-day cap on it, and that the program would run from the 1st of November to the 1st or the 15th of April, the 1st of April? I think it was the 1st of April. Anyhow.
Somewhere in there.
In the Budget Adjustment Act, the House Human Services Committee went to appropriations, and they proposed a $1.84 million increase in funding for the General Housing Assistance Program. But they also extended the date, the cold weather date, till the end of June.
So
'cause
into the
evidently, yeah, into the
Because
summer. Evidently,
begins, I believe,
it's
on the 21st of June.
yeah, it's too cold to sleep outside until the end of June. Mike, what do you think about that?
Well, as somebody brought up, campgrounds open sometime in May, so what's the problem?
May 15th to be exact.
Yeah.
The state park's open for camping. So they also removed the 80-day cap on the number of days that you can utilize the program. And that was a big shift from the policy compromise of last year. And they added it to the Budget Adjustment Act. So it had the optics of giving the governor's recommended budget a lot of the things that he had checked off, but it left this one huge sticking piece. And it was something that, because the deadline wasn't until April 1, we could have easily tacked language on to either the big bill or another bill to deal with this in the light of day during the regular committee process, but instead they just kind of tried to slide it through on the budget adjustment.
So I wasn't here for the last two sessions, or I wasn't at the State House for the last two sessions. It's my understanding that's kind of what was happening a lot last year. Is that correct? Is that the kind of stuff that happened last year?
In the sense of, things were done, policy was made that was pretty much rammed through without any consideration, then yes. I can't remember what we did to the BAA last in 2024, but I know we put a lot of extra money in for like the Vermont Housing Conservation Board and extending GAT at that time. There wasn't a lot of compromise on it, but we were able to eventually work through that program and put a cap on the room rates of $80 and put the 80 day stay in there and a lot of other stuff. But this is just an example of more of the same old, and we're getting legislation rammed through.
I know that, and for people that may not know what the General Housing Assistance Program is, it's the Vermont Hotel Motel Program, and I know that the reason why I didn't vote for it was because of that program. I don't think that it's very effective. We're not helping people in their current struggles, for whatever their reasons are for not, being able to have stable housing. We're not helping them at all. And it's, to continue a program that's not helping, I think that it's not the best decision, which that bill passed. It passed by 87 to 51,
Yes.
which, based on my understanding, that means that if it were to be vetoed, there would be enough votes to uphold the veto, correct?
That is correct.
So,
But we'll have to see what the Senate does to it. The Senate may very well make some amendments and changes to it, potentially cut out that whole line item, or reinstate the 80-day cap. I think the administration would be a lot more sympathetic to funding it to some degree if the 80-day cap were put back into it, or there was some sort of compromise on the cold weather date. But let's face it, if the cold weather date starts the 1st of November, there's cold days in October too.
yeah.
It's snowed in July in the state of Vermont. When do we say enough is enough?
I think didn't his proposal have extra funds in there for shelters?
It did.
Is that not correct?
It did.
Which,
It had a lot of money in there for shelter beds, which have been historically underutilized. When we have these cold weather events, there's very few people that take advantage of the shelter program, but there's a lot of people that are taking advantage of the hotel program.
yeah, I like the shelter idea. I think that having people in a centralized location would allow for services to help out.
Absolutely.
Think of, after the flood in Barre City, we opened up our Barre Auditorium for those that had been flooded out. And we had, religious organizations just come to the table, provide food for people. And, there was people up there for help. And makes it a lot easier for helping people to get off their feet. Not
On
off
their feet.
On their feet. I keep on messing that up, but everybody knows what I mean when I say it. Thank you. So yeah, that did go through, unfortunately, but
It's off to the Senate, and hopefully they can make some changes in it.
yeah, hopefully.
Well,
Which
I like the idea, like you said, if you're going to provide a program where people are not enabled to just sit back and not get help, whatever help may be necessary. A shelter bed, like you talked about, keeps you warm, provides a safe place for you to sleep. But a hotel room is obviously more privacy, but looking like you said, what are the causes? Why are people without a place
they need help.
to live?
I mean,
to stay? Yeah.
Some people just need some help, and I don't, when could you sell me into making it so that families get hotels? You might be able to sell me down that road.
Sure.
But either way, I think we need to have a central location for services. And that bill that they passed did not have that.
No.
It did not. And that's unfortunate. So, yeah, that's a no.
That's a no. I was a no.
That was a no.
Mike was a no.
Yeah.
Mike was a no.
We were all no on that. And it was the first, and it wasn't really contentious. I shouldn't say it was contentious, although I got a few
There
comments.
was some debate on it.
There was. I mean, it was the most contentious bill we had as freshmen legislators.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, Mike
it's
I-
always one of the first bills that comes up, right? Because we're trying to balance out the budget for the next fiscal year.
Yeah. It was interesting, and I learned that you can add an additional comment after, because what happened is they did a roll call, which doesn't usually happen. It only happens on contentious bills for folks that are listening, and you're supposed to write out your if you
With
want to make it
explanation.
with
Your vote
explanation,
with
yes.
explanation.
Yes.
Right.
But and I started doing that, and I was gonna do it, but I ended up not doing it. But I think that you can also add an explanation after the roll call. Is that correct?
It's done after roll call. When they're calling the roll, you vote, you say yes or no, and then you say with explanation. If you forget to say with explanation, at the very end, after the explainers have been recognized, you can stand up and ask, Madam Speaker, may I explain my vote?
Yeah.
If you forget to ask for an explanation during the roll
Okay.
call.
I think that happened on one of the votes.
Yeah, I think
it was-
the rep from Essex, I believe, asked to explain her vote
Possible.
after the roll was called. But that's a pretty common practice. People still they're either writing or they forget to say it while the roll is being called, and then they ask at the end to explain their vote.
Yeah.
And a vote explanation is supposed to be just short, couple 3 sentences at the most. And everybody's we're working the kinks out on that on both sides right now, trying to,
No filibustering.
get people to, hone their vote explanation as best they can.
I was thinking about doing a 5-page dissertation, and Gina was like, "Yeah, it's supposed to be three sentences."
Yeah, you set that along, and I was like, whoa.
Leave it on
That's
Facebook.
for floor debate.
I should have said something then. Oh well, it's all good. And then the other contentious kind of vote that we had was the Bennington 1. Was it Bennington?
Yeah,
Bennington 1,
Bennington 1.
Bennington 5.
Bennington
2
1.
districts.
Yeah. And for what people, for folks that may not know what happened was, there was a little bit of a mix-up. They had divided the district, and this is the reason why I'm just going to throw this out there, why we need to do our districts that are not crazy. I mean, for example, Barrytown should be just Barrytown, with all due respect. It gets confusing when you start taken little pieces, and I understand for the numbers and everything else, but what happened down there was that they bifurcated a street. They cut a street in half, similar to what we used to have in districts for Barre City. Beckley Hill on the right side was, District
Ward
1 or
something,
something.
yeah.
And it was District 2. So we shared a representative with Berlin, 10 years ago, which
Right.
was Pat McDonald, actually.
Yes.
But so in this particular case, well, then we didn't have universal ballots. That's where I think the problem is that we have universal ballots being sent out. And when the ballots were sent out, they were sent to the wrong addresses, and they had the
They
wrong
didn't have
district.
they didn't have the correct candidate on them.
Correct. So,
And
and that's a product. I mean, that would not have happened had we didn't have universal absentee ballot.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened.
No.
So if anybody ever asks, is there a good reason not to have it? That's one good reason. If you're not going to have the district split up properly, that right there is a good reason why.
Right.
and this happened 2 election cycles in a row.
Correct.
It happened twice, and
Wasn't
Prince
caught.
Busa lost both times by a very small margin, which for me was a sticking point if it was that close.
Yeah.
And from what I was told, he found out about the error on the ballot because someone who intended to vote for him wrote him in, but then called him and said, "Your name was not on my ballot. Why?" and asked. That was a big deal for me. The other thing was the Secretary of State's website this past election cycle was a disaster. Trying to find information on the website was very difficult. The site got hacked at least once, from what I know.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I think the Secretary of State's office bears a lot of responsibility in this.
Absolutely, and the fact that the optics of the Secretary of State initially saying that district needed to be revoted right out the gate didn't look very good.
Yeah.
And then she walked it back when she got to committee, but that certainly set an expectation
Yeah.
with the voters that their
For quite a
vote was
few-
going to be counted.
That statement was made back in November, correct?
Yeah,
And here
shortly
we
after
are,
the election.
first week of February in committee, where she says, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that," but there are a lot of people, like you said, voters were probably expecting to see
A revote.
a revote.
Yeah.
So maybe they weren't following it as closely as we were.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, certainly that set the stage for a revote. I don't get me wrong. I know that because it went through it. Strangely enough, the vote to maintain Jonathan Cooper as the state rep got more votes than the BAA did.
Yeah, it did. And I think that speaks to the hard work that the committee did
Yeah.
do on that, and the idea that you can't recreate the November
No.
selection of people who would have been at the poll, who would have actually voted,
Yeah.
who's moved out of town, who's done this, who's done that. There were certainly some strong feelings in committee that this just couldn't be replicated to the November 5th scenario. However, for me, being that it was the second time that it had happened, it just seemed like it was sloppy of us not to try to do something to correct that.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you on that. I mean, I know out of the 3 of us, I was the only one that voted yes for it. My hope, which wasn't ever taken up as an option, would be to keep him in the seat for this year, and then revote it in November, understanding that it's expensive, and he would have ended up being in the legislature until the vote did it again, and it's like a 60-day warning period. So it would have been almost the end of the session.
Right.
So it would have just been easier to do that. But that wasn't the recommendation from the committee. The recommendation came out as, you know, I think it was, what, 10-1?
911.
911. So, I mean, it wasn't, and it's not, nobody had any malice in voting no on that. And I'm sure that there's probably people out there that would think that, but that's not the case. They, you know, the reasons that I heard were, listen, these voters are disenfranchised, and I get that, and that's kind of true, right? You know,
Yeah.
2 years in a row, or two elections in a row, they were disenfranchised.
Well, and just to bring up the point, one of the committee members voted one way in committee and voted a different way
When
on
it
the
got
floor.
to the floor, yeah.
Because of, like you brought up, constituents who found out about it and did get a hold of them the night after they voted it out of committee and were, like you said, felt very disenfranchised. How are we supposed to feel? And I can't say that I blame them for doing that, because if we're going to send a message that everybody who goes out there and votes, if their vote counts, then it would have been nice to see this addressed at a quicker pace.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it would have been nice to see that it was caught the first election cycle.
No kidding. And it's, yeah, but I mean,
To happen two election cycles in a row, to me, is a real sticking point.
it brings up, again, the concern, the thing that I think of is that this is a product of our universal ballot mailing. And because if they went to the polls,
They would have
gotten
received the correct
the
ballot.
correct ballot.
Yep.
And if they had called their clerk's office, they would have gotten the correct ballot. This is, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that this was solely based on the whole universal ballot.
Yep, the universal mail ballot, the
Yeah.
mailed out ballot for sure.
Yeah, it creates. It doesn't. I'm not. Everybody worries about like fraud with it. It's not really.
Yeah, and
You
this
don't
wasn't
have to
an
worry
issue
about
of
fraud.
of
You have to
fraud.
worry
This was
about,
an issue of, you know, this was a
mistakes.
clerical mistake.
Right.
But a clerical mistake that cost people their, you know,
Their vote.
their say.
Right.
Well, I know another error that it sounds like it was the Secretary of State's office that made the error. The town of Washington had the entire slate of JPs that were running deleted from their ballot. There were no JPs listed, no JP race
So
at all.
everybody had to write somebody
They had
in.
to, yeah, and
you serious?
Oh wow.
the challenger for Secretary of State actually was at the town hall in Washington with a little slip that I think he was either telling people, you know, this was your slate to vote from, or that they could actually stick it to the back of their ballot. So there was more than
Wow.
one issue with ballots in this past election cycle.
you
That's
know-
another reason why I was a no.
Yeah, right?
Man, I'll tell you, the more we hear about the universal ballot, and hey Barb,
I'm
thanks
not a
for
fan.
watching.
Not a fan.
Yeah, not digging on it, not digging on it at all.
No.
I like the way that we do it, where if you want a ballot, you just call and you get a ballot sent
And
to you.
it worked
Yeah.
fine for years that way.
Yeah, but man, the universal ballot, it sounds like it's really.
It's a lot of work. It's a heavy lift for
Yeah.
town clerks to
Oh,
get all
yeah,
of that
definitely.
done. And
And it's
you
so
know,
sacred.
it
I mean,
is, absolutely.
You're touching someone's ballot, and you know, I just, yeah, no. I there was a time where I was like, you know, maybe I could like this, but then I'm like, the more I think about it, like, and these kind of things pop up, the more I like. Ew.
well, we
don't
need
know.
a thumbprint and a retinal scan, right?
Thumbprint, I don't know that we need to go that far, but
Mike's up for driver's licenses, right?
Hey, nothing wrong with that as far as I'm
I'm
concerned.
not. I'm not opposed to driver's licenses.
nor
either.
am
Neither
I.
am I. Not a mine.
It will never pass in the state of Vermont, but it's definitely not something.
Maybe
that,
not this session, but we'll have to see. So
Barb. Some reason I can't read her name. Weiss Waters says, can't get the polls on election day. Easy call and request your absentee ballot. Yeah.
yeah,
Can't get to the polls on election day. Easy call, sorry, and request your ballot. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's super easy to call the clerk's office, and you don't even have to call. A friend could, as long as you give them permission, can order those ballots for you
Right.
as well, as long as it's the address that they have on record. But yeah, that was an interesting vote, and like all the other votes were just like nothing. all
Well, and
boring.
it's something too that isn't reviewed. It's a one stop.
Yeah.
It goes to the House of Representatives to make this decision. It doesn't go over to the Senate. It doesn't go before the governor. It's one vote to either approve or reject the report in the House, and that's it.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm not upset by the decision. I mean,
I think the
I
committee
think
did good work
they
on it,
did.
and I think it didn't really come down to being necessarily a partisan issue, which
No.
I thought was great. It just came down to how you felt about the voters in Bennington 1 and whether or not you felt like they had been robbed.
right. No, I don't disagree with you on that. Yeah, so there's that. I will say this regarding, as we talk about the Secretary of State and all that, it's my understanding that they're moving forward on providing voter guides, mailing them to everybody.
Yeah.
I would love your thoughts on that.
I have a
that's
big problem with the
first
voter guide.
I heard about it.
Oh,
first
so
time
let me
I
let me
You
tell
didn't
you.
see
No,
that
no,
from
that-
the Secretary of State's office this year? They sent out an email to everybody, and you had a voter guide that you could fill out from the Secretary of State's office, and it asked you how you felt about policy issues.
Yeah.
And the Secretary of State, let me say this again, the Secretary of State has no business interfering in an election to the degree that they're publishing policy inclinations or leanings
Yep.
for, it's promotional material, right?
It is, and that's what I
Isn't
said
that
to
like
her.
the polls say this?
Yeah, it's
It's
so
some sort of official Secretary of State poll.
Yeah.
it's exact. So one, who decides what is policy? Oh, I just spit a little. Who decides what is policy that needs to be on these documents? Because with all due respect, there's things that I'm going to bring to my constituents that they're not going to bring. So, they're pushing out these letters or these documents.
Well, and you
it's
could write
campaign
anything.
material.
Yeah.
It's
You could
campaign
write
material.
anything you wanted in there, and it wasn't a check here, check there. You could write anything you want. I wrote the most grandiose, grandstanding piece on mine that read like a political advertisement, and that is the Secretary of State has no business sending out political advertisements.
100%.
And the other problem with it is if somebody missed that for some reason,
Thank you.
how does that put them in the field against all these other candidates that may or may not have seen it? If Digger
Exactly.
wants to do that, if the Times-Argus wants to do that, then by all means let them do that. But the Secretary of State, no way, no how, not nah.
Exactly, because I made that exact point, is that all that does is that's beneficial for incumbents because they know the process. Somebody coming off the street and, getting these, emails about, we want your opinion or whatever,
They don't know to identify that. I can't tell you how many candidates I called that I knew personally that were running, and said, hey, you really should fill this thing out for the Secretary of State's office, because you get, as somebody who's running an election, buku surveys to fill out
Yep.
from all kinds of special interest groups. And a lot of people just categorically don't fill out any surveys. So if you've got one slipped in there that's from the Secretary of State's office and you're not doing surveys, now you're suddenly at a disadvantage from other candidates who filled it out. And it's sanctioned by the state?
Yeah, that to me, that's kind of creepy. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they're doing mass mailers. That's what their plan is, to do mass mailers for this, and that just, to me, seems creepy. It seems very creepy.
I think there's a conflict of interest there. I think it's beyond
think
creepy.
you're right.
I think it's a violation of campaign law.
Well, now that you mention that, now that I'm thinking,
Because
if
are they
it's
saying that they're making
coming
in-kind
from-
donations
Well,
to all the candidates when they put
right.
out a mailer?
Right. Well, that, and let's be honest, I mean, if it's coming from the Secretary of State's office, I mean, if you really want to think about that, if it's coming from the Secretary of State's office, that kind of is like campaign material for the
Yeah.
Secretary of State, right? Or no,
Absolutely.
maybe not. I mean,
It's not a news source.
yeah, no,
It shouldn't
it's
be.
not.
No.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, I don't know if I don't know if the Secretary of State's office has, and I'll defer to you on this, whether or not they have the ability to just do that in a vacuum, or if it's something that
I
they
think
need
it's a policy
legislature.
call that's going to be brought into question if they go forward with it.
I would
Because
like
it's disproportionately, like you said, Mike, it favors incumbents
Yeah,
in a big way because they know the protocol already.
yeah,
I mean, it's so much to take in when you're a new candidate, and you
Right.
get so much email and so many solicitations and so many other things
Yep.
that where does
Yeah.
that put you? It's not good.
And trying
No.
to differentiate which is something you want to get involved in and which you don't, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, the only business the Secretary of State has, if they want to send out an informational mailer, as far as I'm concerned, is the person's name, their district, and their party. If they want to send something
Okay.
out that's informational, then
because
this is information that's
records.
going to be on the ballot.
Yep.
Information that's going to be on the ballot, but asking people about their policy stances and only giving them a certain amount of words,
Yeah.
No.
And on top, again, I get back to who's writing the questions.
Right.
Because you can
You can word a
formulate
question to elicit
exactly
the answer you
exactly.
want. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what my
Exactly.
concern is.
Yeah. No, I think the Secretary of State's office needs to be worried more about cleaning up their website and not worried
extending their purview.
about. Yeah.
Which reminds me, I had an issue with my campaign financing where I booked in a mailer twice and it still hasn't been fixed yet. So I gotta.
You filed the amended report, or
Well, I sent an email and I think I filed an amended report.
and it's
it
still not popping up
shows-
correctly.
Yeah, it still shows that I spent $12,000 and I didn't. I spent 10. But I gotta remember to do that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Any exciting bills on the docket? Do you want to talk about that one bill there, Mike? You want to talk about that bill? You want to talk about
Which
it?
one? The one that you brought up? Which one was that?
That would be H4
H4. There.
and Act.
Relating
H4
to egg-laying hens,
Yes,
Michael.
an act
Egg-laying hens.
of egg-laying hens.
Probably one of the most critical and important pieces of legislation and questions that we're facing this session
I
is
don't know.
egg-laying
Well,
hens.
If you want to go there, I'd beg to differ with you. I like the one that I introduced, H89, better, but what can you do?
What was
What's
89?
H89?
School choice bill.
We can
Oh, how
talk
can you
about
make
that.
any comparison between that and egg-laying hens?
I mean, yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong. I like eggs, but I don't know, I don't know where the
Well, I don't think
comparison
it's
is.
necessarily the problem that the bill was introduced. What I have a problem with is that it's been taken off the wall. Because there's a lot of superfluous bills
right.
that get introduced that never get taken up off the wall. But in a year where we have so many issues that are facing us that are far more important, excuse me, to the egg laying hens, with all due respect, important than, egg laying hens, we're taking time out of a committee's day to consider something like this when we have pressing issues that this legislature needs to solve.
Yeah. Yeah.
mean-
This bill doesn't address, to your point, affordability. It doesn't address the housing issue that we have. It doesn't address public safety. Doesn't address education, does it?
No.
Okay. Well,
So-
Well, I
89
guess the
addresses
hens are
education.
smarter if they have more
I'm
room.
gonna.
Can you prove that, Representative Gelfen?
I'm
That
gonna have to get the Pavlovian
You're gonna
test
need
out
some-
for
I
that.
was just going to say, you're going to need more testimony in
I'm gonna
committee
need
for
more
that.
testimony in committee on
Oh,
that.
I'm gonna take a different stance on this whole conversation. My issue isn't like the frivolity or anything like that. My issue is I have dealt with chickens things before, and believe me, you do not want to go down that route. People that are not funny about things are funny about chickens.
Oh, I think you're hearkening back to the
The big chickens.
Berrytown school chickens.
Oh, yeah, same thing. That was before that. I think it might have been before my time on the school board.
Yeah, it was.
And let me tell you, again, people that are not funny about anything are funny about chickens. And
I'm not familiar with the
do
Barrytown
not mess with the chickens.
school chickens, so I'm not
You start
familiar
messing with
that.
chickens, people show up with signs. It has happened at city council. We've had.
Am I getting myself into a chicken debacle?
Oh, yeah, you do not want to.
I'm in a real egg here.
Yeah, you're in a real egg. Yes.
Well, if it's a golden egg, then you're good.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're probably going to be in trouble.
I would not have submitted any legislation regarding chickens. Not in my. Never. I would never do that. It's too dangerous. People will come at you with hatchets and.
I suppose.
And funny, and we joke about it. It's not. I probably shouldn't joke about it. I mean, they're talking about safety standards for chickens and stuff like that. Although they, oh man, I'll save my comments for
Another day when we
another
go
day.
off the air,
When we
Michael.
go off the air, I'll make my comments about.
Well, and it's not the point that do we want to do good things for egg-laying hens. Sure, certainly we do. The point is this the important issues that the legislature needs to be dealing with this session?
Does it need to be a priority?
And,
Yeah.
quite frankly, we've already got, if you want to buy more humane eggs, so to speak, you get the cage-free
There are plenty of options
eggs.
out there.
There's a lot of options out there. In fact, the best option is to go down the street, find your local farmer that's selling eggs,
That's
and
true.
get eggs from him. If you're
That's
if that's the concern.
Again,
That's correct.
I'm not gonna. I legitimately I'm not gonna judge anybody for submitting something like that because I want to submit a bill that legalizes raw milk. So
I
Didn't
think that's
see-
a very different health concern, though. There's a legitimate health
there one
concern
out
for
there
people there. Depending on how you feel about pasteurization, and is that necessarily something that you have to keep for public safety, or can you have fresh raw milk available in a safe supply to people and get it out there? That's actually a health issue. I
saying.
suppose the egg-laying hens is an issue of health to the hens, but
Well, the thing, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes into play, like you said with pasteurization. Pasteurization became a big thing way back when, because we didn't have refrigeration and filtration like we do now.
Right.
So the milk is harvested and it's gone right into a chiller,
Yep.
and it's
It's that the
I'm just
bacteria
saying.
count can't get up nearly as high.
I'm just saying I like raw milk, and
But you know what the difference between raw milk and pasteurized milk is, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know.
And why they do it and
I-
everything.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, if you want to know the real reason why they did it, it was because way back when the cities were starting to put stuff in the milk that was not good because there wasn't enough milk going around in the cities. And
so
anyway,
it was actually getting diluted.
it was getting diluted. I think it was getting diluted with, I want to say sawdust, but that can't be right. I can't remember what it was. There was something that was being put in the milk. There's like a whole history of it, and I don't remember the history
Well, we
of
can
it,
get
but-
into oleo if you want, Mike.
Ooh, what's oleo?
It's during the World War II rationing, they gave you basically a tub of lard and then some nifty yellow coloring that you could mix together with it, and it basically was margarine. Or as my grandparents called it, oleo, because I think that was the government name for it back then.
Okay. Well, as it turns out, lard isn't as bad for you as we've
Well,
been told,
no,
right?
that is true.
This might even
So-
have been petroleum-based lard.
What's that?
It was something that wasn't so good.
Oh, okay. Well,
So what bills? What have you Mike? Let's talk about some bills that you've submitted.
oh, bills that I submitted. Now I'm going to have to go back. Well, like I said, the H-89 was the first one, the school choice bill.
So talk to us about the school choice bill. 'Cause
School choice bill.
I'll probably we'll probably butt heads a little bit on it.
It basically is a reintroduction of H-405, which basically allows school choice statewide, and it sets up a system where there would be a fund, and if you and your child elect by a certain time to go to a school, as long as they have the seats for you, the room capacity, then if you have signed up by a certain time, the funds follow the student. So I know that school choice is a big deal, and I know that this education bill may or may not have some sort of school choice in it, but I figured there was a taste for it last election cycle. I know it was out there. I read the bill, and I didn't find anybody who had appeared to have the interest to reintroduce H-405, so I did it. So we'll see what happens. I know it's on the wall in Education Committee. I know they have a lot to deal with this term. So I don't know where it's going to go, but it's there. Maybe it'll get pulled, maybe it won't, but we'll have to see.
So just for
so everybody knows, kickoff for the Super Bowl right now.
oh, are you?
Uh-oh.
Do you are
Sure
you
way
Just
to
in
get
case
everybody to tune
just
out.
in case anybody forgot.
It's probably the reason why the numbers are a little bit low, which I kind of
be.
expected. And Raylene said she told me that hey, it's kickoff.
Yeah.
But since you guys didn't have a problem with it, and people can rewatch this, it's not.
That's
time
right.
sensitive.
Right,
sensitive.
They
It's
can go
recorded.
back
We
and-
can come back
Yeah.
and I'll probably go home and watch it at halftime.
Oh, you will? I won't. I'm just.
Actually,
football
who's
makes no
playing
sense
the
to me.
halftime show this year? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
I have
but
no idea.
I do know. I think it's the Chiefs, right? Is it the Chiefs?
Yeah,
that
it's
are
Kansas
playing?
City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
You know who's
My
not watching
brother-in-law's
Barry
a
Beat
big-
right now? Lucas Herring. Former mayor Lucas Herring is definitely not watching Barry Beat.
Is he
100%.
a Chiefs fan or an Eagles
He
fan?
is a Chiefs fan.
My brother-in-law is
Gotcha.
a big Chiefs fan, so I
Yeah,
know he's
he's-
probably going to be sitting on the edge of his seat most
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah, I'm sure Lucas is super excited watching them.
Ooh, and it's going to be Kendrick Lamar. It's doing the halftime show with SZA.
doesn't ring a bell. with
Don't
me. I
not
have
sure
no
not
idea
sure who
that
SZA is.
I don't know who
Grammy
Kendrick-
award-winning artist who has collaborated with Lamar on songs like All the Stars and Luther. Little known facts here coming out.
Those
Don't
facts that
know
I had
that.
no idea
And I don't
about.
even know what Kendrick Lamar is famous for. What's his top song? Let's
I
try
have
to.
no idea.
We don't know. We
Oh
don't
man,
know.
we're like old school. Like
I don't know.
we're 80s
Hey,
and 90s.
I mean, nothing could be greater than watching 50 Cent hanging upside down coming out for the Super Bowl when they had 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg. They had the hip hop rap Eminem halftime show. I think it was maybe 4 years ago, something like that.
Don't recall.
And
Didn't
50
watch it.
Cent came down from the center of the stage, hanging upside down, singing one of his like I can't remember what song you see, but one of his favorite hits. It was good. He
Not
pretty
gonna
much
lie.
he pretty much fouled himself for any kind of comeback after that.
I have not seen that. I think the last Super Bowl halftime show that I watched was probably the Lady Gaga one.
I don't know if I saw that.
That was actually, I mean, she did a pretty good job. I mean, it was everybody was like really concerned that she was going to be super woke.
Yeah.
And one thing that Lady Gaga knows how to do is go after the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
She just played her music and that's it. She didn't do any. I don't think she did any like speeches and stuff like that.
You
in
know
the
who
middle
was
of it.
great at the halftime show one year was Prince. Prince rocked
I
it.
don't
He
remember
came
that.
out and put on a really good halftime show.
Can we all agree on who the best singer for the national anthem was?
Whitney Houston.
Damn straight.
Exactly.
Whitney Houston. I mean, come on. Do I have to take this mic off and
Yeah.
throw it?
She had some pipes.
Exactly. She was
Definitely had
phenomenal.
pipes.
That is, she was the best. So sad, such talent.
Yep.
Anything that you've submitted that you want to chat about?
I
for
haven't.
co-sponsored?
I've got a few things that I'm still looking for co-sponsors on. One of them is the age and tobacco rating for insurance policies, so that if you are of a certain age and don't use tobacco products, you qualify for a different bracket. Should drive down the cost of insurance for younger folks. And then I've got one that is related to, God, what are my other bills? I don't even know. My head's just spinning from all the work that we're doing right
got a
now. But
bunch
I've
that are
got a few
co-sponsors.
other related to healthcare in the pipeline, and there's one connected to party formation and committee or local town committee formation, and how many people can qualify. Do you need to qualify as a committee?
What is it, down to 3?
I
I think it's as low as 3 right now.
Well,
isn't
they
it?
want to get it down to 3, I believe.
Oh, I thought it already was 3, but I'm not 100% on that.
But that's actually a constituent bill that I need to send in. It's in drafting right now. It should be out any day. So the Legislative Council drafting department has been really backed up with all the education
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah, I imagine
They're
they're just a little bit
super
busy
And
busy
because
right
they
about
tell
now.
you in orientation now to start submitting your bills right after you get done orientation. So it's just turning into a cluster.
I started submitting my bills after orientation. I think my first one was in like December.
Yeah.
Which I think that one was. It might have been the drug one that I submitted first.
Yeah.
Which I couldn't. Talking to legislative councils, she was like, "You're wanting something that's unconstitutional," and I'm like, "But it'll make my community safer." And she was like, "Well, we can submit it, but it's unconstitutional."
Probably
So-
a good idea to listen to Ledge Council on that one. Like,
So
certainly,
I ended up just submitting the one where it requires the attorney generals to put restrictions on people.
so they can't return to the same dwelling.
Right.
That's a good bill.
It is. It is.
Oh,
It's-
that is a good idea.
makes no sense to me why we don't put restrictions on people that are traveling up here shacking up with people that oftentimes are substance abuse. They have substance abuse issues, and they're letting these drug dealers stay in their homes because they want to get drugs because they're,
Suffering from
suffering
addiction.
from addiction. And this is one way they can get drugs. And then
Yep.
these drug dealers come up, get busted, and we don't
Return
say
right to the
you
same
can't.
spot.
Correct. It's disgusting. It's
Yeah.
and you know what? I'll say it's disgusting, and it's, I don't, I need to be careful because I will get very pissy real quick on this. And I think of Barry Manor, where people are going in there. They go in there, they get subsidized housing. People will come up here from freaking Springfield, Massachusetts, and then they will shack up in these. I shouldn't say shack up. 'Cause
I was
that's
going to say,
really-
be careful
don't
with the
really
shack
say
up, Mike.
I know, right?
Decorum. Remember decorum.
Decorum, I know, using shack up, but they will set up shop in people's apartments, and then they will have free reign of going in and out of the building, and people are getting beat up, they're getting assaulted in the Barry Manor,
Yeah.
and nobody gives a fuck.
Oh,
You're gonna have to
there
go
it
back
is.
and bleep that one out.
Oh,
Decorum. I think
Nobody-
I don't think you got the K on it, Mike. I think you're okay.
Ooh, I was fudge. No one gives a fudge about these people. It really makes me angry. It's really frustrating.
No, it's super
And-
frustrating.
yeah,
and
and-
it's going to be, the problem in the Barry Manor too is that you can't return to the dwelling, but that means apartment 1A. You can
Yeah.
move over to apartment 1C. And
Exactly.
you can move over to it's really difficult to establish that.
And I'm assuming it has to be Raylene because she's the only one that's able to comment as 802 Scoop. Says, and the housing could be used for people that need it. Exactly. And that's the other thing I think of and this I didn't put in for a bill, but just tempt me with a good time. It might happen in the future where if you're getting subsidized housing and you're selling drugs, gone. You don't get any more subsidized housing anymore.
I think that's fair.
That you are selling poison in our community, and we are paying for you
Ruining
to live
lives.
in
Yeah.
that place. And I'm sorry, I just don't think that's right.
Yeah, because
Especially
that's
in
not a question of being
man, I gotta be
addicted to a
careful.
substance. That's a question of profiting off other people's
Yeah.
misery.
Yeah.
And profiting from the government at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It boy, that
cooks
is
your
all
tomato, doesn't it?
It is all encompassing. This problem is all encompassing. But
Yep.
I'll hold up. I'm gonna relax a bit. Gonna relax. Chill. I'm gonna calm. I'm like
I
all
can feel
collected.
the
You
temperature
feel?
coming down in the room.
I apologize
your zen's
for
just
getting
infectious.
I was getting a little
Heated.
infuriated there. So, Mike, do you have something else?
Let's see. I'm looking. There's one in here, and I can't remember which one it is, but it's related to, I think, Jim Harrison. Representative Jim Harrison introduced it, and I one of many co-sponsors about this
Repealing
campaign.
the lawsuit provision, right? From the
Well, it's that one of those. I think that was Mark Higley who brought that one up. I'm talking about the
Repealing the
eliminating
clean heat.
Social Security from
Oh yeah,
tax.
that's
Oh.
a huge
Phasing
one.
out the tax on
Social Security and then
Yes,
phasing
I'm
out
very
the tax
happy to-
on military pensions.
Military, yep, that's another one that I happily co-sponsored. There's a bunch, and there are a few that are really good that I just, for some reason or another, probably because I'm new and I couldn't follow it all, that I wish I did, but hopefully
Well, and I got to get
one
on.
day they'll get off
It's
the wall.
already been introduced, but Rob North has a bill to repeal the renewable energy standard,
Yep.
and another
Yes.
one he had that was quite good. that somehow I missed out on the
think that-
opportunity
was it
to
the global-
sponsor.
Oh, the repealing
Renewable.
the 3-acre rule.
Yeah.
I think he put that one
The
out too.
3
I
acre.
think that was Higley. Was that Higley or North?
North is the 3-acre rule one.
Okay.
Because I think that one just came
Oh yeah,
out
the
recently.
3-acre stormwater rule. Yeah,
That
absolutely.
we heard testimony in committee this past week that was really heartbreaking to listen to.
Oh, it's terrible.
A woman
it's,
and her
you
husband
know,
came to testify about a subdivision that they live in. There was a stormwater permit. They moved in, didn't know anything about it, thought everything was fine, and then they get a letter about this 3-acre rule. It could wind up being, just for them, $20,000. Where are they going to come up with $20,000?
No, it's
And-
ridiculous.
And their neighbors uphill, where water is going to come down the road to them, apparently are not included in this.
No.
And their neighbors, adjoining neighbors, another. And
It's any place that had a stormwater permit when it was built. A state stormwater permit when it was built is now subject to the 3-acre stormwater rule. And if you have more than 3 acres of impervious surfaces per a certain amount of square miles or square acres or
Right.
however you want to
Square
slice that
feet
one,
or
square
whatever, yeah.
feet, I don't know. But it's a big problem. It's a problem for the state itself. I'm on corrections and institutions, and we deal with all the state buildings, and we're looking at a cost of tens of millions of dollars to come into compliance for the 3-acre rule, and it's a problem because it's something that the feds have imposed on us, that we have to get our phosphorus discharge into Lake Champlain under control to a certain varying degree, and we're way behind on it, incidentally, and Vermont passed the 3-acre rule, which goes above and beyond what the feds actually
that's
require.
a big part of it, too.
And that's probably my biggest problem with it. But we have
Yeah.
to do something, and some of this is because we're pushing harder on residents than we are on farmers. And I'm not out to demonize any farmers here, but a lot of the pollution that's in Lake Champlain is farm runoff.
Well, you and I would have to disagree on that because I'm not 100% certain on that. When we get into that, and we've heard testimony with all kinds of phosphorus TMDL loading.
Yeah.
Apparently, municipalities with the I forgot what the term is, but the overflows when we have heavy rain.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of it's human.
That's apparently only 4%. But my big concern about that is if we're looking to grow municipalities and bring in more housing on storm districts, municipal districts, well, if we don't have the capacity now, how are we going to build
you know
more
why
housing,
that is,
put in
Mike?
more housing?
You know why that is? Because
Tell me why
most
that
of the
is.
infrastructure for city sewer was built during the Eisenhower administration
Right.
and hasn't been upgraded since. There's had very
it's-
minimal upgrading.
It's
so
not glamorous.
It's not.
It's not one of
It's
those
not
things- Costs a lot of money.
effective.
Yeah,
Costs
It
lot of
costs a
money.
lot of money to upgrade a municipal water and sewer system, and quite frankly, we're maxed out. The Middlebury's dumping sewage into the
There are a
Otter
lot
Creek.
of them. You can go on, I think it's the DEC website, and you can
Montpelier, Barry.
Yeah, you can get notifications.
We're dumping it in there all the time. You can get notifications. And the Middlebury one, sewage breach, I think it was last spring, wasn't reported in a timely fashion. So you could
it
get out
wasn't?
there and take a nice little poo bath
Yeah,
without
that's the
any
thing,
kind of
it closes-
notification.
Part of the testimony we heard was about the days that beaches and like Lake
Fecal
Champlain, if
chloroform.
it's closed, closed to recreation and the money loss. So it's not just. And to me, 4% is 4%. If it's something that can be addressed, it needs to be addressed.
But we're talking about tens of millions of dollars invested
Yeah,
in the
oh, yeah.
infrastructure. When we're
Probably
also trying to
closer to
invest
100
tens of
million.
millions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at it statewide.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But on an individual sewer plant by sewer plant by sewer plant, you're talking,
And one
$30
of the
million.
big things-
We
yeah.
don't even have the $40 million to save the Bennington Battle Monument.
So
I don't know anything about that.
The Bennington Battle Monument's gonna fall down pretty
Oh,
soon if we're not careful. It's got since the time it was built, it has problems with moisture because it's a like freestanding stone structure. It gets all this condensation on the inside to the point that it's just like running down the walls. They had similar problems in the Washington Monument when it was first built. And it pools up in the bottom. It runs everywhere inside the monument. And I mean, you go up the staircases and there's like rust. It looks like there's stalactites hanging off the stairwell. It's really bad, and it's going to cost $40 million to save it. And it's getting to the point where it's we spent, I think, God,
40
I can't remember. I want to say like 180,000 or something to put all kinds of fencing around it last year because there's big chunks of it starting to fall off.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I didn't know that either.
it's not good, and that's the second tallest freestanding masonry monument after the Washington Monument in North America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
40 million? Man, that's
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Oh, they got to waterproof it. They got to redo all the masonry. There's just, it's a mess. You ask Mary Morrissey, she'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. Oof. Yeah, no, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
That's
that
the glamorous life of somebody in institutions and corrections, or corrections and institutions. I always say that backwards, even though it's my committee.
we had conversations about crypto kiosks.
Ooh.
crypto kiosks.
Where you convert your crypto into dollars?
No, where you you can do that, I think, and vice versa. Money
Pump dollars in and turn it into crypto?
Yep.
Yeah, because the IRS is doing such a good job of monitoring crypto. They should really, really make it that much easier.
The problem with the kiosks is that people are, scam artists are convincing people to go to the kiosk, put them into Bitcoin, and then transfer them.
Yeah.
And it's a huge problem. I think the committee will probably end up somehow banning them so that they're just not available in the state of Vermont. Which, a part of me is like, well, we shouldn't be doing it because, everybody has their right. But, the 70-year-old woman that...
You have to have some consumer protection out there, too.
I could think of...
You can't go caveat emptor for everything.
Yeah. I could, if my mom ever got caught up in a crypto scheme, I would be livid that,
there wasn't more consumer protection out there.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Well, there's only 3 of them in the state of Vermont, though.
Well, I went after one of the scammers once because there's a whole construction scam going on where they reach out to you, they give you the address of something, they say, kindly give me a bid on this property. They never meet you there, they don't exist. But you go out, say you go out and you bid the property, and I went ahead and did this because my business used to be in Texas. So I pulled up Google Maps and I took a look at this house on Google Maps and I wrote up a bid for these people and sent it off to them. And they then turned around and sent me a check for $15,000. However, of course, the check is
Fake.
Exactly. So you go down, and as soon as you sign on the back of the check, you're assuming all liability for that check. Once you sign on the back of a check, it's now your problem if the thing turns out to be fake. So you put the 15 grand into your account, or no, they sent me a check for 20. The job was 15. And then they say, "Oh, so sorry about that. Didn't mean to send you the 20. Can you just send me the 5 back in cash?" Which you can't mail cash.
Yeah.
But they just tell you, "Oh, it's okay. Go to the FedEx, seal up the envelope." I messed with these guys for weeks. Weeks and weeks until it got to the point where they were like, "God will rain down fire upon you.
Bring
You have
it."
stolen all of my money. I am calling the FBI." And I tagged their IP address, and they were in Lagos,
Oh,
Nigeria.
yeah.
So,
Nice.
Yeah, the
good.
FBI's
I'm
coming
glad.
for me for the check scam, but it was so much fun. I was just a riot doing it.
You know, and I'll just say for anybody that's watching, if you know it's a scam, play along and
Yes.
make their lives miserable and waste
Have
their
them
time.
invest as much time into it as you
'Cause
possibly can,
exactly.
and report it to the Secretary of State.
Yes, because the time that they spend with you is time they're not spending with somebody else.
Exactly.
I know Roland Tuziant. Do you know Roland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like when
He
telemarketers
fudges
call
with
me.
them all the
Oh
time.
God, when telemarketers call them, I say, my social security number? Hold on a second, let me ask my cat. Oh, buddy. He's like, oh, it's on the soup can? I can read you the numbers on the soup can. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a blast. It
Yeah.
really is. You gotta have a little levity there.
Yeah, he has a lot of fun with them, but he really messes hard with them.
Ah.
And one of these days he should just do a whole video of him messing with
They have it on YouTube.
yeah, I know.
The scammers guy, he's great.
Yeah, it is. It's always wonderful to see them what's wrong with my computer?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And, no offense, but a lot of times their English is not good on some of
No,
these messages.
absolutely
So
not.
you know it right away.
Yeah.
And God always comes in.
Oh,
God rains fire on you, or God
Yeah.
blesses you and your children.
Yeah.
I don't know why
These are
they got to
disgusting
co-opt the
human
Christian
beings.
message for scams.
Just tug on people's heartstrings.
So we'll probably end up banning those or putting them. I made the comment. I'm like, well, why don't we restrict them to only be able to be in a bank or a financial facility? And the guy from the Bankers Association is like, no thanks. And
Yeah.
I'm like, exactly.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all the proof you need. You don't need them.
Well,
Yeah.
no, and
That would effectively ban them without banning them.
exactly, and that's where I was going. And I made that comment. I'm like, we're not banning them. We're just saying you have to be in a financial institution, and the financial institutions are not going to accept you. So we do what we want, except for they're gone.
All right. Now,
Really?
seeing how this is the seminal episode of Capital Beat,
Yes.
I want to ask you guys, as new legislator, what has been Mike Booten, Representative Mike Booten,
Mike Booten.
what has been your biggest challenge so far since you got in the building?
The biggest challenge. Can you come back to me? I don't. I don't
Okay,
really-
question number 2. This is a
Okay.
really easy one.
Okay.
Have you been to the Marble Palace?
I have. I actually went there during orientation with Emily, who's in my committee, and I love her. She's just amazing. Emily,
She has the big glasses.
yes. Karis Duncan, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's terrible. I don't know her last name. But she's just phenomenal. She is so much fun. And we went down there and we were spying in on it and
It's
everything
pretty
else.
cool.
It's pretty cool,
It
I have
is.
to say.
Tyler,
It is. I've been there.
back
You
to
have?
question
Check it
number
out.
1, though. What's been your biggest challenge so far?
Just trying to keep up with the schedule, I think.
Well, it's
so much-
overwhelming, right?
There's a lot of stuff to keep track of. And you want to do a good job.
And that's just
Trying
in
to-
your own committee. Forget
trying
about
to
trying to
juggle.
keep an eye on
Well,
what's
yeah.
going on everywhere else.
Right. Keep track of events that you want to try to attend.
Yeah.
There is really a lot. I did
Super
not
simple
really-
solution.
Yeah, super.
Clone.
There you
Oh,
go.
That's a good
I
idea.
have
you
a events clone.
So, but it's. I don't know about you, but I'm getting used to it. It is a busy schedule. But
I'll say, and now that I'm thinking about this, the hardest thing for me, I hate meetings that I'm just listening to people.
Woo! Come on over to corrections and institutions.
It's rough for me, and I have issues sleeping, so I get very tired, and my eyes are this. And I'm like,
This one, Mike.
do this.
And look down at your paper.
Is that, well, I'm
Yeah.
right in front of the camera, so you can
Everybody's
see when,
right in front of the camera.
it's that definitely is a huge difficulty
Who
for
was
me.
it? You can do the, was it Eddie Murphy that painted the eyeballs on his eyelids
Oh, that's a good
on
idea.
Saturday Night Live? And then
That's a
there
really
you
good
go.
idea.
Just get like some sort of tattoo or decal or something each day.
Raylene says finding a parking space is definitely it can be pretty difficult. I've found
Not for Mike and I. 7
Yeah.
o'clock
No,
club.
you get there.
Yeah.
You get there nice and early. I like to get there early to just
yeah.
mellow out, sit and talk with people. If I have questions, there's plenty of people around to help answer
It's a big
questions.
resource getting there early,
Yeah,
man.
oh, it
Yeah.
is.
I try to get there between 8:15 and 8:30, and that usually gives me a spot like on that first row next to the
The angle
steakhouse.
spots there, yeah, those are good.
They are very good, and there's always like one parking spot in a like right next to the truck, which I don't know who has that truck, but I wonder if it's
Well, there's Ghostland has a truck over there. Mike Morgan parks his truck over there. Pat Brennan parks his truck over there, who is in the Senate now but still has a house plate.
it's one of the reserved spots.
Oh, no, it's not reserved. It's just the first angle spot. The
Yes.
very top one.
Yeah, the very
Yeah.
first one. I don't
That's
know.
Pat Brennan.
Oh, that's Pat Brennan.
Yep.
Okay.
Because
So-
I always joke with him that when I get there early
It's
enough.
not reserved?
And no, it's not reserved. It's just the first one that says legislative, I believe.
No,
I thought the top 3 or 4 said
The top
reserved
3 or
on it.
4 are reserved. They
They
say
say-
G1, G2.
correct. They say that, but they're not actually reserved.
Have you talked to the sergeant at arms about that? Because
I'm
I'm pretty
looking-
sure they're reserved for the lieutenant governor's office.
They are not reserved because of the last parking PDF.
Update.
Yeah, the first one is reserved, but the rest of them are not.
Yeah.
And I usually try to get those, although I've been
So you park on the left side of his truck.
right side. Of his
Right
truck.
side.
Oh, maybe.
Interesting.
Well, no, if he's not parked in the first spot,
Yeah.
then sometimes I park in between the two trucks. But I've been parking behind the Pink Lady,
Yeah.
which is a nice walk.
That's a good little walk, yeah. See, I have my special reserve parking spot.
Where's that?
It's out the side door where they have the gate, the
Yep.
arm that goes
Yeah.
up and down. I park right next to the granite wall there.
Oh, okay.
And I get there at 7, but even if you Jed Lipsky though, Jed, if you're watching, starting to get a little close to my parking spot there,
getting
Jed.
a little froggy?
So yeah, he's starting to get over in that zone. I think he's noticed that. But worst case scenario, I park in front of the last spot in my little roller skate car, and I just make my own.
Do you know who has a really nice spot?
The governor.
No. I mean, he might have a nice spot. Topper.
Oh, Topper's got a great spot.
He's got
And Lynn
the-
Dickinson, because she
the
broke her ankle and has like a plate and like 7 screws in her ankle, so they get the reserve spots
Yep.
in the handicapped
Yeah,
parking lot.
they got nice spots. I mean,
Yeah.
Topper he could just fall down and hit his car.
Yeah.
It's that close. It's literally as you come out of the building, it's those parking spots right there, right before
But
the
my
Pink Lady.
spot coming out the side door headed to the pavilion, I'm literally like 15 steps to the door.
I'm
At
gonna
the
have
most.
to start getting there earlier.
You'll never beat me, Michael Booten. 7 a.m.
Is that a challenge?
That is a challenge. I know I can win this one with you, Booten. Be careful.
You're probably right. I struggled to get in.
I'm
at
not going to
8:30.
see you at 7 o'clock there.
My goal was to start.
You're
getting
writing
there at
checks that
7:30.
your body can't cash.
I know. I wanted to get there at like 7:30, but I just haven't gotten there.
I
Sadly.
started off getting there around 8, and then I realized, sometimes
I
the
love seeing
early-
Tagliavia in the morning.
I just decided and getting up early because I've got a lot of driveway to clear if it snows. So I
Yeah.
get up early. I make sure I have a little bit of time with the dogs, walk the dogs, clean off the truck, shovel walkway.
You should just start leaving your suits in the Marble Palace.
No, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Leaving your suits?
Yeah.
Yeah, then
No,
you
I'll
can just change when you get there. Wear
Oh.
your bogs and your flannel and everything in, and just make a little closet. There was a guy that was living in the State House. There was a legislator. I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
you got to kidding me.
Oh, no joke. There used to be a couch inside the legislative lounge, because we have access to that building 365
Yep.
days a year, 24 hours a day. Your badge will get you in. And he was sleeping on this couch that was in the ledge lounge. And he was going to like the free food events, and everybody was making fun of him because he was like putting his shrimp in the pocketing shrimp at some of the buffets and whatnot. Yeah,
Holy
there's been a
really?
few of them. Ask Mary Morrissey or Alice knows. All the people that have been there for a long time. There were like 3 or 4 reps over the years. There was one guy that was sleeping in his car, like living on site.
Really?
Because he may or may not have been put down for a room. Let's not talk about that.
Oh.
He had sleeping in his car.
I mean, that's one way to get the money. I mean,
Yeah. And he'd run his car all night for heat.
huh.
He'd just idle away.
If the car is not, that's not a good thing.
No, if
That's
the
a
car's
scary
not
thing.
moving, you'll nuke
If it-
yourself with
well,
carbon
you
monoxide.
could if the wind is right and you're drawing all your exhaust
Yeah.
right back into the car.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Night, night.
with all due respect, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, unless, I mean, I don't know, but the money isn't, it's not like.
It's
you
not
know,
prolific,
it's not
shall
prolific.
we say.
No, there's not a lot of it. But
No.
I mean,
I don't know about you. That's not why I went up there.
when you factor in like how many hours, because it's not just.
It's not an
It's
8 hour
not
day
just
job.
an 8 hour a day.
No. No,
You
it's
know,
not. By
and-
the time you get done with constituent work and everything like that, I mean, I have to work pretty much 7 days a week. I'm trying to think. I think I had like 6 days off last summer with
Yeah.
my painting company to be able to swing this so I could make it work in the wintertime and still pay my mortgage and have heat.
Yeah, I expected a different schedule, but it's not. I mean, it's nice. I think Fridays we're pretty much out by 3.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
I was,
Marcotte's good about that.
Yeah, I was, but it hasn't been as short as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I have got to get there at least I need to start getting there like by 7:30,
Yeah.
8 o'clock, because people are asking like, can we meet? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, wait till they put you on, the ethics panel or the anti-discrimination panel, and you get to have, or some special committee or of this or that.
No,
The
thank
hours
you.
that you spend in that building really rack up.
I definitely don't want to be on one of those committees.
No, well, I'm on one, but we won't go into that.
Any other exciting bills you guys got? Could talk about the gun show. Did you guys go
gun
to the
show.
gun show this week?
No.
Oh, I wanted to, but I didn't have time.
It was nice. I went up there. It wasn't as busy. It was kind of unfortunate, but not surprising. People
Yeah.
can't buy guns
They
at
can't
gun
walk
shows.
cash and carry. They can't do it.
It was very sad.
Well, hopefully that bill will go somewhere.
Yeah, and there is a bill out there to do that.
Yeah.
To make it so that the 72-hour waiting period is removed for gun shows. It doesn't touch. It doesn't has nothing to do with like background checks, blah blah blah.
No, it doesn't
For-
eliminate.
No,
Right.
it just
a
eliminates
waiting
the
It's
period.
just the waiting
72-hour
period.
waiting
And-
period.
And the thing with gun shows is that people are waiting 365 days for the gun show.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like there's people are waiting for the gun show to go to the gun show. You plan to go to the gun show.
Well, my thing is, if you already own a gun and you come in with the gun, why shouldn't you be able to leave with a gun?
That's true. And maybe
There are current
that's
gun owners who want to buy another gun in this state, and they they're subject to the 72-hour waiting period, it makes no sense.
No.
You know,
And it's
that's not a bad idea to make it so that if you come in with a gun, which gun shows don't care if you come in with a none, you know, as long as it's not got any bullets in it.
Yeah,
You know,
well, I
but
mean,
if you come in with a gun, you can purchase a gun if
Yeah.
you are legally, allowed to.
if you pass the
pass all
background
the
check,
background
which they
check.
still run the background check.
Everything goes through. Whoops.
And then, the fact of the matter is, you can go to Pero's, which happened. It was terrible, but they rented a gun, went out on the range, and shot themselves.
Oh,
No
really?
72-hour
Guys-
wait to
guys
rent.
committed suicide right at the range there. Rented a gun and shot
Yeah.
himself. If someone has got it in their mind that they're going to commit suicide, they're going to commit suicide. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of when and with what tool.
Instead of worrying about the gun part of it, maybe we should start talking
About mental health.
You know,
Yeah, the human intent.
Didn't we just shut down some psych wards?
Yeah.
UVM, or not UVM, but Dartmouth just shut down.
Found some beds, yeah.
Right, you know, and maybe we need
And
to
that's
start
where the
using
crisis
those.
is. Yeah, and we've got Berlin, the facility up here, and we can't even get staffing for it.
Yeah, it's not the whatever. It's frustrating. I
It's
don't
not the solution.
No.
It's just not.
I don't suspect that will pass. I do want to be cognizant of your guys' time. We're pushing 1 hour and 21 minutes.
Really?
I'm enjoying myself, but I know that you guys may have places to go. I mean, Michael, you have to.
Whoa, Eagles scored.
Did
Here
they?
we go. What is it? 1st and 10 at the KC 41. Eagles up 7. I just am watching for my squares.
You're just watching for your squares.
Yeah, I get some squares on this. I got some skin in the game because of that.
Well, if you guys if you guys have anything else, we can. If not, we can move on. And
I think I'm all set,
you
Mike.
think you're all set?
I think I am.
all
I
set.
think I gotta hit the dusty trail.
And
All
I
right.
think this is something, if you want to do it another time,
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
let's keep
We-
this capital beat
maybe
going.
in another, I don't know how often
We
you
could
want
get
to try to
hats.
do this.
We could get hats. I'm currently wearing. I'm
I
currently
Get another
wearing
hat,
my
my wife
boot and-
is gonna. I'm gonna have to build
As long as you
another
don't get a
closet.
top hat like
No,
H.
no,
Brooke
no.
Page.
No, I won't be doing that. I
We
won't be
could
doing
start
that.
doing. You know what? I'm just gonna say that I wouldn't.
Or a
mind to
beaver
have-
skin hat.
Yeah, you know what? That
That's been
probably
an
wouldn't be-
exciting. That's been an exciting bill for you to debate, huh?
Well, that's one.
Is this the trapping one?
Yeah. Well, there's two fur bearer bills, I believe, in our committee. I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind seeing either of them come off the wall.
Explain.
You mean stay on the wall forever?
No, I would just say no. I think just leaving it on the wall doesn't do any good either.
I do. We don't have the votes to kill it on the floor.
There's going to be the reason I would like to see it. Maybe I'll just call me a troublemaker. I believe that the amount of voter input that we would get, I think, would be a good thing.
Clean heat.
Yeah,
That's it.
I'm
Oh,
not gonna
look.
lie.
Yeah,
to you.
clean
So-
heat.
Heat standard
we had
needs to
so
come
much.
off the wall. It would be great.
Well,
So-
no, it'd be good if the clean heat standard came back now so we could kill it. But as far as constituents and listening to your constituents,
Yeah.
when we had clean heat, we had more communication, messaging, everything on that bill, asking people to vote no. They don't listen to their constituents.
Yeah, I would.
You mean the Democrats and progressives?
Yes.
They? Okay. Well,
Yeah, they know what's better. In
I'll-
fact, that was even said on the House floor that we know what's better for them. So,
that was said on the House floor.
yeah.
Oh, you can't.
I can't
Preserved.
remember. I can't remember who said it,
Man.
but
Wow.
the public has been fed so much disinformation that we know better than they do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I'll say this about because it's the trapping bills where they want to ban trapping, correct? That is not an issue that you want to take off the wall.
No.
I can guarantee you that because I get cagey over trapping.
A lot of people get cagey over trapping, and
No,
you
I
know,
mean I get
This
cagey.
is
Like
something-
when I think of like a dog walking through the woods and they get napped with just the idea, it doesn't happen. I know.
What you're talking about is an illegal
Uh-oh.
trap.
And going
That's
into
what
the
you're talking
second
about.
hour of Barre Beat. Here we
That's-
go.
I know, but that's what
This
you're
is-
talking about. You're not talking about something that's a legal trap
And
or
that's
it's
very
set
possible.
by a trapper.
I-
You're talking about a poacher.
And that's very possible. I don't know. This is the reason why I'd prefer not to have this conversation. And
Okay.
Yeah,
not
I'd love
not
to
here.
see it stay
I'm not.
super glued to the wall indefinitely.
Yeah, I mean,
Duly noted.
I would say
Duly noted.
keep that on the wall, because if you take it off the wall, it will pass the house. It will 100% pass the house, whether or not
If it comes
people-
out of committee, yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
this is for me. I would probably default to no, just because that's a hard one for me. That's a real hard one for me.
Yeah, you
'cause
got to
I
listen to your
think of
constituents
animals.
on that.
Right.
You know, and that's
And-
where I've always come from on this one. And I've gotten an overwhelming amount of constituent
Yeah.
support to keep trapping safe and legal.
Right.
And honestly,
And
I don't
that's
think
not-
anything should be coming off the wall in the next couple of years, because we need to wait and see what best management practices are. We've only had those in place for a year.
So
And
keep
until
it
we
on
get the
wall.
research and the data back on what best management practices do, we really shouldn't be looking at any of those bills.
Yeah.
Well, I know we had testimony in our
You've had some
Committee about-
testimony on it, yeah.
about the numbers seem to be still going up, even though we do have trapping.
Yep.
And the thing that
Numbers of what?
beaver populations.
Oh, beavers are cute. They're adorable little guys. They go around,
Mike,
plug up the
Yeah,
water.
till
In
for
my
them.
defense-
yeah, it's exactly till your backyard's
Deer.
flooding, Mike.
Yeah, till your backyard's flooded. Okay, but deer are cute too, but they taste good too.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
How's
Okay.
beaver?
Is beaver not?
Never
Beavers,
Can you
eaten
not?
beaver.
Yeah, there are people. I've never tried it, but yeah.
I think they had
There's-
some
Are you
at
not
the
allowed to
last.
have beaver?
there
in the
is
state of
very little, from what I've seen.
The last
there's
fishing
very little
game
waste.
dinner, they put one on in the State House. Fish and Wildlife came into the building and had a bunch of wild game, and I think they had beaver and a couple of other things. I can't remember exactly what. They had venison and maybe some bear meat, something like that. I've never liked bear meat though; it's really greasy.
I don't know. I've heard some people say that
If you
they
cook it
didn't like
right.
it, and there are other people say if you just like ducks, if you cook them right, wild
duck's great.
duck is good. But
Good at the
that's-
Chinese restaurant.
You're talking about domestic, but bear, like you said, I've heard you have to prepare it right. I know guys.
Yeah, I've
who
heard. Well, I've heard that
wouldn't-
it has to be skinned out really quickly after it's shot and then put on ice.
Okay.
That's the thing that I've heard makes the biggest
Because
difference.
of the high fat
'Cause I've had
content,
it,
I think.
I've had it and it's been really good, and then other times I've had it and been like, ooh, thank you, and then you're dumping it over the corner of the couch, feeding it to the dog when somebody's not looking.
Nice.
Take the shot, throw it over your shoulder. That's the Mike Booten.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll do a shot.
All right. Well, I won't keep you guys here any longer. It's been 1 hour and 28 minutes. That's pretty good.
That's
All
not
right.
so bad.
I've enjoyed it. I hope folks that have watched have enjoyed it. Want to say thank you to everybody for watching. Want to say thank you to Gina and Mike for joining the inaugural Capital Beat program, which is a spinoff of Barre Beat, which is the reason why the emblem is in the bottom right-hand corner. But with that, want to say thank you to everybody for watching, and we will see you tomorrow night for Barre Beat. And I'm not sure when we'll see the Capital Beat again, but I'm sure it will be at some time in the future soon.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Till next time.
Doodles.